When news of Lieutenant Colonel Jonathan Yoni Netanyahu's death reached his brother, Benjamin Netanyahu, it marked a defining moment for both his family and the nation of Israel. Yoni had led an elite Israeli commando team in the Entebbe Raid, an audacious mission to rescue hostages held at Uganda's Entebbe Airport after terrorists hijacked an Air France plane. Known as Operation Entebbe or Operation Thunderbolt, the raid on July 3rd to 4th, 1976, stands as one of the most daring and precisely executed hostage rescues in military history. Combining meticulous planning with immense bravery, Israeli forces saved over 100 hostages, demonstrating the lengths Israel would go to protect its people. The raid captured global attention and became a symbol of resilience, inspiring books, films, and the admiration of audiences worldwide for its boldness and unparalleled success. On June 27, 1976, Air France Flight 139 departed from Tel Aviv, Israel, bound for Paris, France, with 246 predominantly Jewish and Israeli passengers and a 12-person crew. After a stopover in Athens, Greece, it took on 58 more passengers, including 4 hijackers. Shortly after takeoff, the plane was seized by 2 members of the Popular Front for the Liberation of Palestine, External Operations, along with 2 Germans, Wilfried Bose and Brigitte Kuhlmann, from the German revolutionary cells. They redirected the flight to Benghazi, Libya, where they refueled and released Patricia Martel, a British-born Israeli citizen who persuaded them she was experiencing a medical emergency. After leaving Benghazi, the plane arrived at Entebbe Airport in Uganda at 3:15 p.m. on June 28. Once there, the hijackers were joined by at least 4 more accomplices and received support from Ugandan dictator Idi Amin. Passengers were transferred to a transit hall in an old terminal under renovation. The following day, on June 29th, the hijackers separated Israeli and several non-Israeli Jewish passengers from the main group, relocating them to a nearby room. Amin visited the hostages regularly, offering updates and assurances of negotiation efforts. The hijackers demanded a $5 million ransom for the plane and the release of 53 pro-Palestinian militants, including 40 held in Israeli prisons. They warned that if their demands were unmet by July 1st, 1976, they would begin executing hostages. Amin, who was aware of the hijacking from the start, personally greeted the hijackers upon their arrival at Entebbe. Reports suggest that Yasser Arafat, a close friend of Amin and his best man at his wedding, supported the operation. After Amin's second visit to the hostages, 148 non-Israelis were released and flown to Paris, while 94 passengers and the 12-member Air France crew remained captive. Among them were 5 non-Israeli hostages, 2 ultra-Orthodox Jewish couples from the U.S. and 2 European nationals, Belgian and French. Notably, an Israeli military officer with dual nationality was mistakenly released, using his second passport to avoid detection. During the ordeal, a Holocaust survivor showed hijacker Wilfried Bose his concentration camp tattoo, to which Bose replied, "I'm no Nazi, I'm an idealist." Additionally, U.S. citizen Janet Almog, Frenchwoman Jocelyn Monnier, and her Israeli-French boyfriend Jean-Jacques Mimouni chose to stay with the Israeli hostages. Within Israel's government, officials debated whether to negotiate or act militarily. Facing the hijackers' threat to kill hostages if their demands weren't met, the decision was made to prepare for a rescue mission that would target both the hijackers and Ugandan soldiers assisting them. While Israel explored diplomatic options, even considering a prisoner exchange if a military solution failed, Defense Minister Shimon Peres pushed for force, while Prime Minister Yitzhak Rabin considered paying the ransom. Israel even enlisted retired IDF officer Baruch Burka Bar-Lev, who had a close relationship with Amin, to attempt negotiation. When his efforts failed, Israel sought U.S. help to encourage Egyptian President Anwar Sadat to persuade Amin. Declassified documents revealed that Sadat's government tried negotiating with Uganda and the PLO but was unsuccessful. As the July 1st deadline neared, PLO chairman Yasser Arafat sent his political aide, Hani al-Hassan, to negotiate with the hijackers, but they refused to meet. Israel negotiated an extension to July 4th, aligning with Amin's trip to the Organization of African Unity's handover ceremony. This delay allowed Israeli commandos time to finalize their plans. On July 3rd, the Israeli cabinet approved the rescue, appointing Major General Yekutiel Adam and Brigadier General Dan Shamron to lead the mission, codenamed Operation Thunderbolt. On July 4th, Israeli C-130 Hercules transports carrying 100 commandos embarked on the 2,500-mile journey to Uganda. The operation required a refueling plan for the return trip, with Kenya being the best option after other East African nations. Fearing Amin's retaliation, declined. Through MI6 Chief Sir Morris Oldfield, Israel engaged Kenyan Minister of Agriculture Bruce Mackenzie, who convinced President Jomo Kenyatta to permit the commandos to refuel in Nairobi. Mossad, with access to Entebbe Airport blueprints from Israeli firm Solel Boneh, which had originally built the terminal, terminal, interviewed released hostages, learning about hostage locations and the weapons used. Back in Israel, the army, with assistance from civilians familiar with the original airport, built a partial replica of the terminal, allowing the commandos to rehearse their mission tirelessly. Meanwhile, Uganda's ambassador to Lesotho, Isaac Lumago, overheard Kenyan officers discussing Israeli plans and Kenya's cooperation. But Uganda's military commander, Isaac Maliamungu, dismissed this as mere gossip and failed to notify Amin. According to Amin's son, Jafar Remo Amin, it was Lumago who eventually alerted his father. After attending the Organization of African Union, OAU, now known as the African Union, AU meeting, Amin returned to Uganda, reportedly uneasy about potential fallout if his troops tangled with the Israeli military. Rumors of a possible raid persisted, but Amin dismissed them, reportedly instructing his forces to hold fire if an attack occurred. Meanwhile, Israel's response team, comprising 100 commandos under Brigadier General Dan Shamron, was meticulously organized. Lieutenant Colonel Jonathan Netanyahu led a 29-man assault team to breach the terminal and rescue the hostages. Paratroopers under Colonel Matan Vilnai secured the airport's perimeter and runways, while Colonel Uri Sagi's Golani force safeguarded the C-130 aircraft and managed the hostage boarding. Major Shaul Mofaz's Sayeret Matkal team seized the military airstrip, demolishing a fleet of Ugandan MiGs to prevent interception. The C-130s left from Sharm el-Sheikh, flying low over the Red Sea to avoid radar and eventually refueling in Nairobi. On the ground at Entebbe, the commandos deployed quickly. A black Mercedes mimicking Amin's vehicle was the first out of the aircraft, followed by a Land Rover that dispatched guards with silenced weapons. The commandos rushed into the terminal, where hostages were held near the main runway, shouting instructions in Hebrew and English. Sadly, amid the confusion, 3 hostages were killed. In a tense moment, German hijacker Wilfried Bose attempted to rally hostages in the restroom, but was ultimately shot by commandos after firing without injuring anyone. Once the hostages were located, the commandos dispatched the remaining hijackers with grenades and gunfire, unloaded armored personnel carriers, refueled their aircraft, and gathered intelligence while under sporadic fire from Ugandan forces. Suppressing enemy fire with machine guns and an RPG, the Israelis finally boarded, enduring minor injuries but losing Lieutenant Colonel Netanyahu. The daring rescue was complete in under an hour. This operation triggered Amin's fury upon discovering Kenyan support. His brutal revenge left 245 Kenyans dead, and thousands more fled the country. In 1978, Amin allegedly arranged the assassination of Kenya's agriculture minister, Bruce Mackenzie, who had facilitated Kenyan support for Israel. After a meeting with Amin, a bomb was placed in Mackenzie's aircraft, ultimately killing him. Amin's ruthlessness continued, ordering the murder of Dora Bloch, a hospitalized hostage, along with her Ugandan caregivers. Israel's Mossad would later honor Mackenzie by planting a forest in his name, commemorating his crucial role in Operation Entebbe. On July 9th, the UN Security Council convened to address Israel's raid after a complaint from the OAU. The Council could not reach a consensus, with Secretary General Kurt Waldheim acknowledging both Israel's sovereignty violation and the complex reality of international terrorism. Uganda's representative claimed that hostage negotiations had been near resolution when the raid commenced, while Israel's envoy accused Uganda of aiding the terrorists. The Entebbe Raid remains one of Israel's proudest military achievements and a defining moment in counterterrorism history. The mission demonstrated that Israel was willing to go to extraordinary lengths to protect its citizens, regardless of international borders or the risks involved. The raid set a high standard for future hostage rescues, becoming a model for other nations and solidifying Israel's reputation for military precision and resolve. The daring and complexity of Operation Entebbe have inspired countless books, films, and documentaries, keeping the memory of the raid alive for generations. It showed the world not only Israel's strength and commitment to its people, but also its willingness to make swift, decisive actions when lives are at stake. To this day, Operation Entebbe is studied in military academies as a classic example of a successful rescue mission against seemingly impossible odds. For Israel, Operation Entebbe was more than just a military success. It was a testament to the country's unwavering commitment to its citizens, a symbol of defiance against terrorism, and a powerful statement of national resilience. The legacy of those who lost their lives, including Lieutenant Colonel Jonathan Netanyahu, remains etched in Israeli history. Their sacrifice, bravery, and dedication remind the world that even in the face of terror, Israel will defend its own, no matter the obstacles. If you enjoyed this video, support our community by hitting the subscribe button. Until next time, remain curious.